All right, guys, let's kick off step one of a bit of a Mosaic walkthrough. So I've got an entirely fresh account that I've just signed up for here. So I'm going to sign in for the first time, take us through what users will see as they log in. So got a bit of a tour here as a first point of call, just showing you essentially what is on the dashboard here. I'll walk through these separately, but this will give you a bit of an overview off the bat. So let's just get through there. Let's stay on the dashboard. I'm going to sign up to the Pro trial just so I can have access and show you guys all the features. So if we just start, obviously this is the Mosaic dashboard. So think of this as your daily briefing. You know, the idea behind this is to have a second screen, you know, a one look overview, I guess, of where we are in terms of markets. So at the top, obviously got a bit of a welcome, a bit of an inspirational quote there, rotates day to day to kind of keep you focused. You can see that the markets are all closed at the moment. It's 9 o'clock in the morning, so none of the physical major markets are open. Below here, we've got the session map. So this is a relatively new addition, but essentially just shows you which sessions are currently in play and open. So if we expand this out, you can see I think this is really valuable as you kind of get your head around what sessions are active and what you're kind of looking for statistically. You know, obviously broken up into the three major markets, Aussie 200, UK, and the S&P. So you can see obviously all the markets, except for the US futures has opened up at the moment, but this is what I kind of keep an eye on. All right, so I'm always trying to look at, well, how does you know, the Asia and London session finish given X, Y, and Z in the data, etc. So that's pretty handy. Moving on, we've got daily context. So every morning, let's daily briefings. We've got the daily context here. So every morning, Mosaic AI kind of scans the data, highlights a pattern, setup, etc., and just puts here. So this morning it's just looking at in the Aussie 200, obviously had a bit of a collapse yesterday, again drift lower overnight, so it's just got a bit of a summary as to how that's played out at a high level historically. So you can see that, you know, we've had a bit of mean reversion here in terms of very high occurrences of 10-point moves to highs or more and 10-point moves to lows or more. So again, this is just a perspective, but it just allows you to kind of go run it yourself, have a little bit of a dig into that to help you get your trading plan in order for the day. So yeah, it's not obviously not to predict what is going to happen, just to simply show you what kind of those similar days have done in the past. We've got just a Trade Nation morning rundown here. Again, this is just a bit of a summary of what happened overnight, if you want to have a look through that. What else we got here? Markets at a glance. So this is essentially the 5 major products that on the platform and that I personally trade. We've got the Aussie 200, UK 100, the US 500, the VIX, and the Bitcoin. So it's just showing you the delta as opposed to the anchor there is the physical market. Okay, so it's telling you that currently, the overnight close on the Aussie 200 closed down 30 points compared to where the ASX closed, or the XJO closed yesterday. Similar to the UK, it's down 11 compared to where the FTSE closed, and the S&P just shut, down about, the futures are down about 4 points as to where the S&P closed. So just a quick snapshot of where global risk currently positioned. Then we've got context and intelligence. So this area contains, I guess, the key events along with the guardrails. So what we've got here, firstly, is Outliers. So relatively new kind of addition here, but this just allows a lot of people, I guess, ask when they're trying to learn how to trade in this data-driven kind of philosophy, you know, where do I start? So the idea behind this is showing you, okay, what were the outliers yesterday in terms of all these sessions? Okay, so you can see here that, you know, the ASX session, which is a 10 to 4 p.m. move on the Aussie 200 yesterday, was in the 4th percentile of all moves, you know, in the last 5 years or so. The first hour, well, that fell 36 points yesterday. That was in the 5th percentile of all trading days in the last 5 years, and naturally futures as well down. So that will give you, yeah, somewhere to start essentially, and you can interrogate, you know, what happens when those outliers occur, what has happened when those outliers have occurred in the past in Data Lab. And today's events just gives you a heads up again, just providing extra context for today. You know, NFP, obviously a very big release, so that's something that I wouldn't ignore. Also, the US today coming into its July 4th holiday tomorrow. Again, the market generally has some patterns heading into holiday, so again, that's something that I'd be running. Guardrail here, this is just default to the Aussie 200. Again, we'll go into this separately, but that just tells you in terms of options, chains, etc., where our market maker is positioned today in terms of options on the Aussie 200. And active alerts, obviously this is a new account, so no alerts at the moment there. Okay, so where to from here? So next thing I want to do is essentially make this dashboard mine. Okay, so I want to customize the dashboard so that it reflects kind of what I want to see when I log in the morning. Okay, so if we just go to add tile button on the dashboard there, for me, I just want a snapshot of what's happened yesterday and overnight, essentially. Okay, so I want to see what the XJO, you know, the physical market did yesterday. I want to see what the futures did yesterday. I want to see where the futures are positioned overnight heading into this morning's open. And then I want just a glimpse of what the FTSE did and the S&P did. Okay, so I'll just put those tiles on the dashboard here. Okay, so they've been populated down here. So you can put as many of these as you want along there. I'll just note as well that a lot of these ones, you can actually get live deltas as it's occurring. So, you know, as an example, if I added let's see, I want to keep track of what the US Asia session's doing. US is open at the moment. And so you can see this is a live tile and it's flat at the moment. Okay. So let's just click done there. Okay, so this is generally where I just keep this dashboard open. You can actually pop it out here as well if I do that. And I just keep that on a screen generally, on my vertical screen, just to keep track of how things are going throughout the day that way. But moving on, let's go through, okay, let's have a look at the daily context. Okay, so this is obviously it's before the ASX is open this morning, and this is just giving one perspective on a setup going into today. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go run in Data Lab. What that's going to do is open up that similar setup which is active today in Data Lab. Okay, so what we've got here, this is actually two of the outliers that we'll get into in a minute, but it's basically saying it's pulled two of the outliers, which was ASX session prior day fell, and that first hour really collapsed as well yesterday. And then overnight, the futures have drifted negative, essentially. So it's just running those three filters and saying that there's been 18 days in the last 5 years where we've had this kind of collapse yesterday and then drift lower overnight. And it's showing us all the moves when each of those occurrences happened. Okay, just going, if you want to verify any of this, you know, you can see here Oz 200 ASX session prior day. This is also why it's filtered 44 and 26 here, is because that's the bottom 10% of moves. Okay, so that's why it flagged as an outlier, because it was in the bottom 10 percentile first hour falls and ASX session falls. Okay, so again, if you want to go back and verify it. Here was the first hour fall at 10 o'clock yesterday, and then obviously 10 till 4 p.m. that was the fall there. So it's basically just saying, okay, that's interesting. That's a real outlier in terms of, you know, the last 5 years of trading data. Let's have a look at when we get this, and then a negative futures pricing. This is the overnight move into today. Historically, when this has happened, what's happened next? Okay, that's all we're trying to do here. So this is where you can really go and interrogate the data. What the daily context is alluding to in this particular instance is, okay, we've got 18 days here. We can see that 16 of them have reached, this is the ASX session high. So again, this is looking at the highs, you know, from 10 a.m. this morning. So we open up here through to 4 p.m. So the ASX session. It's just saying that whatever that works out to, 16 divided by 18. So you can pretty much say 90% of the time, the market has rallied at least 10 points to highs throughout, at some point through this period. Okay, and similar with the ASX session to lows. Okay, again, we've got 18 occurrences here. 17 of them have reached at least 10 points to lows. Okay, so that's all that daily context is saying. Okay, now just to put that into kind of some kind of trading plan, and this is just off the top of my head, this is not financial advice, but potentially a way you could implement that is say, okay, well, I'm going to set a short limit order 10 points above the 10 a.m. open, and a buy limit order 10 points below the 10 a.m. open. Because what that's telling me is that in the past, the vast majority of times, we've kind of seen moves both ways. So there's probably likely to be a bit of an arm wrestle here early. You know, so for me, personally, I really like to kind of straddle that open and go with the momentum. Given that setup today, I'd probably be a bit more hesitant to do that. Okay, I'd want to see one of these moves kind of be ticked off before I look to trade in that direction or in the other direction there. So that's just one interpretation of how you could look at that. Going back to the dashboard here. Again, outliers. So this is what I was talking about. You can run these yourself directly in Data Lab. So if I wanted to run these, I'd just do that. And if I want to get to the same point as I was before with the daily context, I could just add an additional filter here, and that will give me exactly the same 18 instances that we had from that daily context. Events, as I said, always keeping one eye on the events. Everything here. So this is just looking at, let's go back here. Okay, so this is just looking at NFP day and date before holiday, which are the two kind of events that's popped up today. So, you know, again, it just allows you to interrogate, okay, US has got a holiday tomorrow, what normally happens, okay? Just as an example, I was kind of just looking at before, you can see that US is gapped up on open, and that first hour is kind of followed through with that momentum. I was just having a play around before where we could go to have a look at what happens when that it has occurred in the past. So as an example, let's do day before holiday when we've had a positive open gap and the first hour is also green. So, you know, just having a look here, you can see, you know, just what stands out to me, just having a look through the data. you know, Asia session, 8 out of 8, flat or higher. So that's basically saying that, again, from this point, the open point, 8 a.m. this morning, through to London Open, which is at 5 p.m. So the next 9 hours, historically, when we've seen this heading into a US holiday, it has not finished below this point in those 8 occurrences again. So putting that into the trading terminology or trading plan again, anything below 8482 on the US 500, historically you would make a profit closing that out at 5 p.m. Sabo based on this. Okay, so you normally see that momentum playing through. I think that's about it. Guardrails, this will take you through to today's guardrails. Aussie 200 will come out before market open. UK 100 and S&P 500 will come out in the evening before London opens. What else? Alerts, we'll get stuck into some alerts shortly. But other than that, that is the dashboard.